時間も待っていたのよ私猫と一緒にトリッキーのミニスカートでトリッキーみたいなポーズでトリッキーのミニスカートでトリッキーみたいに痩せおこちの私その時電話のベルが私猫みたいに喋ったテレビのボリューム下げて私嘘みたいな声でトリッキーのミニスカートでトリッキーみたいなポーズでトリッキーのミニスカートでトリッキーみたいに痩せあこちの私3時間も待っていたのよ私猫と一緒にトリッキーのミニスカートでトリッキーみたいなポーズでトリッキーのミニスカートでトリッキーみたいに痩せ心地でトリッキーのミニスカートでトリッキーみたいなポーズで
Hello, our users. My name is John Kulas. I am a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology. 10-year user. Let's move this up. 11-year user of R for normal, boring statistical reasons and purposes. And for the last 8 or 9, I gotta change my numbers here. So for the last 8 or 9 years, I've also been using R to wrap entire projects. So to execute entire projects within the same platform. So I don't go from an analytical platform to a writing platform. Everything's just done in R. And so every week I get together with some people who also have some experience and interest in doing this. And we just hang out. We hang out for an hour. If there's anyone out there who also is interested in doing this, introducing what I believe is the proper workflow for conducting what's called reproducible research. That's kind of been a buzzword within some of the publishing sciences over the course of the last 7 or 8 years or so. Publishing. There's no such thing as publishing science. Some of the sciences that are focused on academic publishing is what I mean. Here primarily for other people who are interested in this, and we want to encourage them to do that and be a resource if people are interested in doing this, because I really do think it's the way that work should be structured if you're doing anything with a quantitative component to it. There's no reason not to fully author projects within this same platform. So we're here for that, but in the absence of people popping by and asking questions, and if you do have a question, just pop it in the comments. I'll try to keep an eye on it. It's not the easiest. I'm still kind of a 20-year professor, 0-year internet streamer. So I don't know. I don't have the skills to stay on top of this stuff all that well, but I'll try to keep a side eye on comments. Speaking of that, so the last 2 weeks I was having connection issues thought I had it cleared up, and I'm hoping that I have it cleared up. But last week I was clipping. I call it clipping. I don't know what the proper term is, but occasionally just kind of freezing, and it had some sort of rhythm to it. So it was let's say intermittently every 2 minutes or something. I think I've rebooted everything I need to do here, such that if it happens now, it's something with my new provider. So speaking of comments, I have potentially a mole in the audience tonight. Sorry, that's probably not that. A cute little mole, a cute little furry mole agent in the audience who might be giving me feedback if we start to clip again, because I'm a little worried about that. They say bad things happen in threes. So 2 weeks ago, lost electricity. Last week was clipping. Oh, so in the absence of people stopping by and having questions that we can answer kind of on the fly, which is the intent of this, to do a live coding and a live back and forth interactive problem solving kind of option or opportunity. We've also been looking at features of using R. We've been the analytical platform that I favor is R. And so we've been looking at features of using R as an authoring platform, a little kind of segmented, specialized, focused things that can be done. And so that's kind of taken up most of the time of these weekly, roughly hour-long sessions. And so tonight, what we'll look at a few different options to incorporate some visual elements into your documents. Now, actually the last 2 weeks, because I got knocked off the internet 2 weeks ago, but the last 2 weeks we were taking a look at this package called Iconify. And tonight what we're going to do is we're going to dig into that a little deeper, but we're going to contrast Iconify with some of the other options that we have to play with those sorts of elements. And I have two or three kind of legacy options. One more recent, one option that I wouldn't consider to be a legacy, but certainly not more recent. And then Iconify. We'll take another look at Iconify again and how to do that. So before we do that, let's do a recap into what happened last week.
Our story opens today in, of all places, the Up in Arms, a Washington hotel. That figure lying peacefully in a hotel bed is our hero, Rocky. You will notice that he's wearing a nightcap instead of his usual flying helmet, and for a very good reason. The helmet was stolen by Boris Badenov, who then proceeded to the Upsidasium warehouse at Fort Knick-Knack, disguised as...
Hokey smoke, fellas, it's me, Rocky, Flying Squirrel.
Sure, go on in, Rocky.
Yes, disguised as Rocky, Boris penetrated directly to the room containing the nation's entire supply of Upsidasium. Then he cut the alarm wires and opened the rear window.
Ahoy out there, you swamps.
Boris, what means the Navy talk?
Means coast is clear.
Once inside, the two spies were soon joined by the sinister shadow of that criminal mastermind, Mr. Big.
Those Bullwinkle cartoons were actually they were in such short segments that you almost get the full gist of the episode just through that little 30 or 40-second clip that I've been using for my transitions. So I feel like I should go back and watch the full thing, though, because I'm interested now. Now that I've been clipping these up, I am interested to kind of pay a little more close attention to what's actually going on. I vaguely, in the back of my mind, remember some of these storylines, but I don't remember the details. And it's a fantastic cartoon. So last week, we finally got to take a deeper look at this extension for Quarto called Iconify. And there's a hyperlink here. There's a hyperlink not to the Quarto extension, but to the repository of Iconify symbols and icons. And what is that? Almost like miles per hour? I haven't checked this one before. I guess that's an internet speed kind of thing, it looks like, or connection type speed. And we had some fun with it. We actually played with a couple of different icons. One of them was the R symbol. Now this looks a little different because one of the things that we did with these images And so the width here is larger on screen, and we also flipped it. So what you're seeing in terms of the backwards R is reflected in this code chunk here on top of it. And I don't have much this week in terms of recap because we're gonna hit it again. The Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner sequence here was just kind of a joke to myself of how we kept dropping. So kept dropping last week. That wasn't something that was fun, but hopefully it's not going to happen this week. So there were quite a few different things that we could do with these icon images, and if you click on the backwards R, it'll take you to a help page for the iconify extension that talks about those amendments that you can make to the icons itself. And so the syntax for calling something out is just curly bracket, angle bracket, and then we're going to close with those three elements as well. And then on the inside, the command that you need is iconify. And then in angled brackets here where it says icon, this is what we're finding. This is what we're finding from the icon set itself. And now, so the icon set itself, again, is identified here. So it's over 200,000 of these things. Look, there's a basil one. It's in basil. I was thinking something different. I thought they'd all be pesto themed for some reason. Apparently they're not. So we played with quite a few of these. The flip and the rotate are two that we spent, I think, most of our time on. Size, width, height. We also played with the label. In terms of amending, if you hover over the icon image, by default, it's just going to tell you what the name of the icon itself is. This is file dash type dash R, and it was within a set of icons called VS Code, so VS Code icons. And so that's what's told. Upon hover, you can override that, and you can override that by, again, if I hit that, I think it was either title or label. One of them was operative upon hover. The other one's maybe an alternative label, or the other one's maybe important for something like screen readers. we didn't delve into it too much because the one of them gave us the effect that we were interested in. So that's iconify, and we were pretty impressed with it. What I thought we would do tonight is go ahead and contrast iconify, kind of let it do battle with some of these other options that we have to introduce these sorts of elements into documents that we author using these methods. So using these methods of Quarto or R Markdown. Uh-oh, Alicia popped in here. We're getting a couple of brief pause moments. So I'm gonna have to talk to my internet provider. Sorry about that. I know it's not fun. So I went back and watched last week, and it was hard to watch. Usually it's hard to watch just because it's yourself, right? There's little affectations, there's ums and ers, and you tend to focus on all those sorts of things. I touch my face a lot. I realized I shouldn't say that because now other people are going to notice it. But so you tend to notice those things. One of the things I did notice was the clipping, and so but this week, if it's not too terrible, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and play with iconify and see how it performs relative to some of these other options. And so the other options here are, I guess, represented by this cat with lightning coming out of its eyes powers. So this slide is something that normally I would play with a little bit before publishing it and letting it out there for other people to access, because there's a couple things on here that bug me. First of all, let me tell you what this slide is intended to represent. So we have elements from the iconify package here in the first column, and I tried to select elements that might have some capability within these other options, but that also demonstrates some of the fun features of Iconify. So we have a YouTube image, we have a kind of an emoji type thing, and we have this pulsating blue quasar or whatever the heck that thing is, just a animated something or other. And what I tried to do was I tried to see how close I could get to that with it. And I mean, not stressing myself trying to get close, but looking for elements that were close. And so there's a package called Font Awesome that we'll check out tonight. And within Font Awesome, we found not as many YouTube options. So this YouTube visual that you see here without the text on it, that's also available in Iconify. I just thought the text in the proper font next to the image. Now I can access YouTube and it looks pretty good using this Font Awesome package. I can also access it using two packages, one of two packages that are kind of legacy packages, and that is icon or icons. And if you look at my second footnote down here, that should say icons. So the icons package requires local installation. That just simply means you're going to need to download those icons onto your local computer. But there's some kind of neat things in there, and we'll check those out. And there was the icons with a Z, not with a Z, but with an S package. The previous version of that was called Icon, and I had used Icon for years. And one of the neat things about the Icon package was that it permitted some animation. So I know what you're seeing here, this rotating eye, doesn't look like this pulsating quasar, but we're able to play with the color, and we're also able to play a little bit with animation using the old icon package. Now, most people are going to have a hard time even finding that because we're several generations away from that initial attempt to get these sorts of elements within the R Markdown ecosystem of packages. And so there's hyperlinks all throughout here. There is a hyperlink that talks about icon, and you can see that that's already 7 years old. There aren't a lot of existing resources out there that talk about icon. Like I said, I came across this a long time ago, and I used things. One of the things about that we're going to see about packages other than Iconify is there might be an option to modify, for example, the color of these, but most of the color modifications are going to be solid. So you see here this solid color R, whereas if we go back to the slides and look, even though it's backwards, if we look at what's rendered here using the Iconify R icon, it's it's nicer. Let's change that really quick. So I'm going to go back and actually let's get rid of the flip. Where's my flip? There we go. Flip horizontal. We don't need that on line 84. These are all the codes that we're using to produce the slides. And again, if you're not used to this, some of the way in which it looks might look a little scary. It's not. It like anything else, it kind of stacks on each other, and you can start really slow and small and build into it. Apparently, I amended the size as well, but what I really wanted to do here was to just render this not flipped. And so here you see the multiple colors. Those multiple colors are actually nice, and those multiple colors, whoa, look at the size of that cat. It's going to kill all of us. Sorry, I was zoomed the entire time, and that cat almost wiped me out. So one of the things we're going to see with these other packages, and we were on the icon tab here when we started looking at some of the options, and again, this has been depreciated. I shouldn't say depreciated. This has been evolved. So the old icon package is now known as icons that are creating it and supporting it, have had developed it. I kind of laugh a little bit because there's not been a lot of work done on this recently, so I think it's been fairly stagnant for a couple of years, but it still works. It's still out there. But one of the limitations I think is, and maybe it's not a limitation, maybe it's an actual kind of desired thing for some people, but the color alterations that you're going to do are going to be somewhat limited. So you're going to have to just introduce a solid color, and that's one of the things that you can do using icon or icons. And so that's kind of what you're seeing down here with this rotating eye, is it's an icon specification. So we'll take another look at Iconify. We'll take a look at the Font Awesome package. And if you access the slides, there are hyperlinks on each of those column headings to package or extension information. So the Iconify capability that we've been using is known as an extension to Quarto, and some of those extensions eventually get rolled into future versions of Quarto. So it's possible that that might get enveloped at some point. But prior to that, these independent contributors are just kind of giving us some neat options to extend the capability, the kind of out of the box capability of Quarto. So that's an extension. Font Awesome is a more traditional package. It's no different than dplyr or ggplot or psych or whatever your favorite package is that you might go to for different things. And what Font Awesome does is it gives you access to Font Awesome icons. And so Font Awesome icons somehow got on their mailing list, so I do get notifications when there's updates on here. This used to be my go-to for commercial type images. So if I wanted, for example, I don't know, IBM, just off the top of my head, they don't have anything, of course, for that. Apple, let's see if they have, I'm sure they'll have actual eating apples, but then they have the Apple image itself as well. As in terms of brands. Brand is probably the word I was looking for. So if I'm looking for something to represent a brand, this used to be my go-to. I doubt Posit is on there. Yeah, I don't think so. But so there's, it's not exhaustive of types of brands and images and icons that you can access, but they had quite a few. And so that was something that I would go to, for example, for YouTube. I guess before I close out of here, we can do a quick YouTube search. And here's the options that we have. There's pro plans here too, so you can actually get, access to more than just the freely available icons. But the Font Awesome package gave us access to most of those. So it usually worked pretty well. Again, one of the caveats, I guess, is that the coloration of those is going to be like the icon or icons package. The coloring is going to be monochromatic. It's going to be there's a single option that you have. So I was able to find, for example, on the Font Awesome site, I was able to find a kissing winking guy. Let's go back there for a second. So um so we'll see if we can find the kissing winking. There he is. That wasn't too bad. Face kiss wink heart. So that was something. Again, this is how it looks by default. They oftentimes have solid and outline versions that are available. So regular versus light versus thin versus solid. Now that's something that we could play with the Font Awesome package as well. I didn't for this particular slide. I just took, looks like the classic guy that was, or girl, I guess, that was close enough to the Iconify image that I like. Honestly, of all these icons that we're seeing on this kind of demo display page, I kind of like the ones in the Iconify column. I'm I'm really liking the iconify images. They look great. Just look, even this guy, the kissing guy, like it's just kind of plain isn't the right word, but it's styled back. There's not too much there. You know, the classic emoji has a lot going on with it in terms of kind of a lot of colors and outlines and things like that. So anyway, the element that I did not like on this slide that normally my normal kind of anxiety with presentation of things would guide me to amend this. The spacing was driving me nuts here. You're seeing between the YouTube icon, the kissing face icon, and the non-pulsating circle dot here, you're seeing something similar happen with a stacking of icons and emojis. So there's a combination here of, since these are legacy packages, I actually I put three of them together. So there's an icons package element here, that's YouTube. There's an emo package element here, that's the kissing face. And there's an icon, the predecessor to icons package image here, which is the rolling eye, which is different than the roving eye, like Sauron's roving eye. By the way, that I never I read those books so many. I shouldn't go off on so many tangents. Anyway, the I read those books so many times. I never got the concept like in the movies where the eye was on the tower and kind of could see things. I don't like that depiction. But my rolling eye, I'm not quite so. It doesn't bother me as much, I guess, because it's not evil. Because Sauron, of course, is evil. But we see these gaps here, and these gaps are something that normally I would amend. I would change because I don't like that inconsistency on my slides. And so I actually started to do that. And the way that the workaround that I was pursuing and seemed to be largely working was I was just going to create a table with hidden grid on it, so you can't see the lines separating cells. And that seemed to be kind of forcing things into more linear rows and columns in terms of standardized spacing. Um, but I decided to leave this in the uncomfortable state just to kind of demonstrate some of the differences that we're already seeing here across these different options. So one difference that really strikes me immediately is just the way in which these icons in a kind of standard stacked format, they're nice. Now, if we inspect these elements, one of the things we might want to do, and I've been playing with this as a tool when I work with HTML objects. Again, I'm a psychologist. I don't really, I didn't know what HTML was until very recently. So I'm playing with these tools kind of for the first time. But if you inspect these elements in these HTML objects, most browsers will have options where you can play with some of the styling options that we have here. And so you can see I did this. I made this fill of F4C81A. That's a hexadecimal code for the color yellow. I chose that. Now we can turn that off. Now, one of the things that I was looking for when I was inspecting elements is padding. I was looking to see if there's something that comes in specific to these elements that would make this circle dot, I'm going to get rid of this now, that would make this circle dot be rendered so far underneath the kissing face. And I honestly, I don't see much. I don't see much in the styling. I don't see much when I inspect elements that explains this difference that we're actually seeing. Now, there's got to be something there inherent within the object itself, or how it's being called up, there's many ways, there's many places where we could actually have something going on here in terms of why that's happening. I guess I'm not so concerned about why it's happening. I want to point out that it is happening and that it is not happening with the iconify elements. And so our terms of uh, the images acting in a way that gives you less headache. So one of the reasons that we're spending time on this is and having a full week session on images is these images can actually be a little tricky to work with. Now, iconify, I'm loving it, and so to me, it's not something that looks like it's going to cause a lot of problems. So there are if you wanted to try to animate this circle dot, there are extensions that already exist and are being worked on. This one is being worked on. You can see it, there's activity in the repository here in terms of development of this extension. This is being authored by the same person that gave us the iconify extension. So again, very prolific contributor here. And it does some animations to different types of objects. So I haven't played with it yet. It's maybe we can spend a week on it if someone's interested in that. But so there are, if you want to wrap your calling out of different objects and elements, if you want to kind of wrap that further and give it further capabilities, those options are currently exist, and they're just gonna become more prevalent. There was an old package. There was an old package that I used to use within our Markdown called Anakin, or called Anakin.
What?
Anakin. I said it's called Anakin.
What?
Yes, Anakin. An icon, I think it's actually called. And so that was neat for our Markdown. And there's a hyperlink there as well to some demonstration of the features of Anna. The Jerringen slide that you're looking at, it's the type of slides that we used to use prior to kind of porting over to Quarto with what we're doing. And it's within that R Markdown ecosystem, but you can see some of the neat animation capabilities that an icon gives you, but those are not operative within Quarto. So I wasn't able to, I didn't spend a ton of time. It just looked to me like that functionality might not be something that works at least out of the box with Quarto. And so that's fine. Again, we have the same author that provided us the Quarto extension. Iconify is working on this animation extension. If you're really interested in animating things, you could probably pursue that. And then again, the big thing about the icons, that should say icons here on my second footnote. The icons package now requires a local installation of elements that you want. That just simply means that the nice thing about Iconify is it just goes out there and grabs it. There's 200,000 possibilities. You don't have to download locally 200,000 different things. The icons package now does want you to access these images locally, and to me that probably is going to have some consequences with regard to how the things that you're creating render, especially if you host them somewhere, right? So the slides that you're looking at now are hosted by Posit. Again, so grateful that they're willing to provide that free resource to people like me. But in order for graphics that you want to include to render properly within a hosted site that's not your local machine, you're probably going to have to actually install those at that point as well. And so to me, that's kind of a full stop on that. So the Font Awesome package, I'm just gonna before we get into it deeply here, I'm just going to do a quick look at kind of recent work that's been done on these. So the Font Awesome package is currently being worked on. It's something that's active. The icons package is something that hasn't had a lot of activity since. We might have to look at the GitHub page for this in order to see it. I think it's been 2 years. Yeah, so This is laid relatively dormant for about 2 years. It still works. And again, even I even go back to the predecessor there, the package called icon, not icons. So those are not actively being supported, I would say. The emo package, I use this for some emojis, and I've referenced this before. This hasn't been touched for 6 years, but this is also a Hadley Wickham package, which just gives it kind of instant credibility and kind of stability and reliability. I haven't had any problems with this whatsoever. These are fun to use. These are easy to use. This is not a package that's on CRAN, so this is a package that you would need to install from GitHub. And if anyone has a question on that, just pop it in the comments, and I can help you with that. I can walk you through that. Okay, so let's actually some of these packages and incorporate some of these images. I'm going to try to leave up. Let me do this. Let me access this week's slides. And I'm going to leave that up as a minimized kind of reference here, just so we can go back and forth a little bit. So one of the reasons you may be interested in using icons or font awesome is if you were intending to render these images within a document type other than an HTML file. And so that's something that we didn't play with at all last week, but I think we should actually play with. So let me get into, I thought we actually created a new project last week. I'm going to jump into that. And let's see what we created. I don't remember what we created. The funny looking stuff that you were looking at there, when we came in, we must have been looking at in the extensions folder. Those were the actual files that the extension author created that we're just leveraging and using. So it looks to me like what we did last week was this testing underscore icons QMD, and this looks right. Just to recall what we had done, I think we can use this as kind of a starting point. We used the basic template HTML file that comes in the box, so to speak, with Quarto. And then we just played a little bit with the R image as an iconify image. And we left off playing with rotations. So let me, don't need that. So here on line 23, we have a rotate 90. And we have a rotate negative 90, just to see if negative was operative. And it is. And then so I mentioned we played with labels and titles to see if our hover had an effect, and the hover is actually operative with the title. Now we can try to inspect this. We didn't look and see if there's an alt kind of title that renders, and that would be howdy. So we're looking for howdy in here, and it's too much to look for. So if someone were interested, you could delve into that a little further. I just want to minimize this a little bit, and I'm going to take off some of the text because we don't actually need all this text. It kind of just clutters things a little bit. So now we have a paragraph or a header called icons, a little description, a code chunk, just to display the structure of our command here. And then we have two different, and we don't need two, do we? Because they're the same thing. So let's just do one. So we'll produce one R that should now not be on its side, should not be on its face, should just be oriented properly. Good. This one on top here, we just thought it was neat. We found it and wanted to see if it would work in the title, and it did. So let's go ahead and let's put in some of these other objects. Now, Font Awesome does have an R. Font Awesome does have an R icon in it. And so you probably saw a preview there because I've searched for this before. I think it's actually called our project or our The only reason I know that is because whoa, where'd it go? What's going on? I don't know what just happened there. Um, this is really, I'm sorry. Maybe this is I said there's going to be another weird week because bad things come in threes. My computer now is starting to do what it did last week to me a little bit, which was act funny and not in a ha ha funny way, in a oh crap this is going underwater way. So here's my R project element. You the the parts of this, there's different ways of dealing with this. One of the things you can do is you can just copy up here to the right of the name itself. You can copy that. That should be enough to call it up using the font awesome package. I am going to look in my packages file here in RStudio and see if I have it loaded, and I do. It's version 5.3. So let's see if that's something that we can get from CRAN. I don't remember. Yeah, this is on CRAN. So you should be able to install that package as you normally would. When we first learned this, we would type the command install.packages. As I've been using RStudio exclusive, as I've been becoming more comfortable with RStudio over the course of several years, I've started to use this package window. Now I'm a massive stickler for complete reproducibility of scripts. So as long as you have your library command in your script itself, but I'm very much a stickler for generally recording everything that's been done. Package installations, I guess that's a bit of a exception for me. So let's go back to our slides and where are our slides? I lost there they are. Sorry. So I'm looking I'm looking for this week's slides so we can hyperlink to the font awesome package. I also could have just done an internet search for that. And again, they're buried in here. There is a shortcut key, I believe, on that you can use to navigate these slides to just jump to the page. The way that I interact with slides usually is just sequential, so I'm not great with full functionality. So we installed the package, and then there's not a lot here, is there, in terms of how to actually use them? I don't know where I found that. Oh, just FA. So FA is the function that we want. So if I go, well, I'm going to do this as inline code. So the best way I've found to incorporate these sorts of elements is to use inline code. And you can see I still have my GitHub Copilot on. I'm going to turn it off eventually because as I'm operating within these authoring document projects, it gets in the way, and it's very rarely gives me something that's wanted. So I'm going to use that double colon convention and say font. So FA in parentheses, I think it's double quotes. I don't remember for sure. No, that's funny. When I did my copy, it copied more than I wanted it to. I believe what we want is our project. So let's try that. Again, the expectation is it might actually blow up. It gave us a little preview there of, I think, something that we're going to play with, and we'll probably play with the rendering of it itself. Now you're seeing it's coming in very plain there. We can play with the size. We can play with the color as well, but we're not going to be able to play with the color such that we get this dual, and this is even more than two, because if you look at the gray has a subtle kind of lightening to it as you work your way around the R. So there's multiple shades of gray that are actually in there. In order to really use this the way we want to use it. I think what we need to do is we need to look for the, since this is on crayon, we need to look for the font awesome uh, actual PDF that's on crayon itself, and that has to give us that needs to, in order to be up here, it needs to give us the the command possibilities, the function capabilities that we're interested in looking at. And what I'm interested in looking at here are things like size and color. So if I look at the FA command that we've been using, there's a fill option, there's a fill opacity. So this is how transparent it is. Stroke is going to be relevant for some icons and not others. It'll be on, for example, in an emoji, it should be how wide is kind of how are they actually rendered. And so width, now width and height is something that we're interested in. So I'm not sure what values they take because I don't think I've played with that before. There's an em command here, so we can try that. So let's play with the height first. And we'll just leave it without. Sometimes there's a default unit. I'm expecting it to throw us an error or to just kind of not look. Yeah, it didn't like that. So let's try 2em. Didn't like 2em. Let's try, sometimes it's in pixels. Try pixels. And it could be that, it doesn't want those double quotes either. What else could it be? So it could be pixels, it could be ems, it could be inches. I don't know why it just doesn't say it in there. Oh, it does say 1em. Should have read more carefully. Height and width style attributes. If nothing, default value is 1em. Okay, well, so we were right with our expectation. Maybe I spelled height wrong or something. I don't know. Let's try that again. I shouldn't try 5. That's just a ridiculous number. Let's see what it doesn't like here. Oh, silly me. So, I didn't. I added the extra specification after the closed parentheses. So, one of the reasons that we do this for people to see how other people struggle with this stuff as well, sometimes too. Okay, so definitely bigger. There's usually permissible values here in terms of how big it can get. I'm not sure how big we can get. That's probably big. Well, let's see if we can get a little bit bigger. Just to see how it looks relative to the very nice iconify image. Okay, so about the same size. Now if we go back to PDF, we also have, it looks like the color command is fill. Fill opacity, I don't think, we're not going to have a ton of time here. So I don't know that we need to play with that, but certainly fill. So fill, F-I-L-L, not P-H-I-L, like a golfer might be named. I don't know why. Every time I hear the name Phil, I think it's a golfer. I don't golf. I don't know anything about golf. Let's make it a goofy well, no, let's not make it a goofy color. Let's see if we can see what the hexadecimal code is for R. And I'm still just using old-fashioned Google here for this. And obviously not doing a great job. So let's just look for hex blue. And we'll pick a pretty one. So I kind of like this one. Boy, this looks like a spammy site, doesn't it? I thought I could click on that, but it's not going to let me. So looks like the top one is actually closest. So it's somewhere between these two, I would say, in terms of saturation. But again, we're not they're going to start with a hash mark or a number, and then 023E8A. Uh, R in general is case sensitive, so usually capitalization matters. Hex codes, they don't care. So with hex codes, it doesn't matter. Our expectation now is this R is going to be rendered in this view, top visible, viewable, top viewable or visible color. Yeah, there it is. Actually, that's a little too much, isn't it? So let's go down. And again, I used to think this was neat until I found iconify, and uh, now that I have iconify, I'm like, well, those R's just look very different from each other. The top one, obviously, I believe is much preferred. So, but here's the thing. Now, if we were to render this not as an HTML document, but as a PDF, now that font awesome image should actually come through. Let's see if it does. And the one that I'm curious about that I haven't tried any of this actually, but the one that I'm most curious about is Typist. Yeah, and there you see font awesome is rendering within the PDF, and the iconify is just missing. And it's not expected to be here. It's not intended to be used in this sort of application. But certainly, one of the things that I've been kind of keenly aware of over the course of the last few weeks is I'm working on a new book project with a former student collaborator, and we're kind of forecasting how we want this thing to look. People that might want it in a PDF format as well. So there's some capabilities that we're tempted to use within the HTML book format, which we largely want people to use, but some people might prefer a PDF and they want it printable to a PDF. And Quarto is great in terms of making those sorts of alternatives available. However, there's going to be implications here in terms of how we choose to use the type of the way that the way that we choose to access these sorts of images. So within PDF, the iconify, as expected, is not coming through. Let's try Typist. Now, Typist document types, we just started playing with recently. And again, there's no amendment here, so I didn't try anything. Now, this might be something that we need to actually work on a little bit before we just say our first try doesn't look like anything's coming through. I do want to put this in not as an inline code, but within a code chunk and see if that has any sort of difference. Since we're in a code chunk, I don't feel as bad about just calling up the library itself. And I don't suspect that that's going to have any sort of effect, but we can at least try. Okay. That's a nice error message, actually. So without turning off the error messages, it just says font awesome does not support this output. Icons will not show. That's nice to know, actually. The other thing that we can look at are those icons. Before we do that, let's take a look at the emojis really quick because those are really really simple. And so the command there is call out the package, double colon, and then the function command is just JI. Now you're going to want to wrap that as an inline code in ticks with the R prefix on it, saying this is a bit of R code, and I have bookmarked because I used to use this so frequently. I have bookmarked kind of a listing of the different options that we have. Let's see if we can get a nice kitty cat in here for, let me see. I'm sorry, I'm kind of having a hard time seeing, but I'm looking for a find option, and I'm just going to do a search for cat. Intoxicated. That's funny that came up. Now, not all of these always render. Oh, you know what? I like the cat, but that robot's kind of cool looking. Let's see if we can get a robot in there. There are, and we had a week on this as well. There are other ways to access emojis using our Markdown. Or I'm sorry, using our Studio. Uh, there's our robot face, and you see again, I changed the format back to HTML, so we're getting the iconify object in there as well. And the doubling of the R code is because we have this code chunk in there, so I'm going to take that code chunk out. What did I? Oh, we can also install emojis if you just use our Studio. I don't use it very often. And then I go insert, special characters, emoji. Oh, look at, what is that doing? What the heck? What just happened? I have no idea what just happened. Again, I don't use the visual editor often. It might be that something's going on here with the Copilot being active, but I'm going to look for a robot again. Let me see if I can find a robot. There it is, same robot. And it just puts it in. So if I render that, I should have two robots there. Again, that's one way to get those elements in. I think I prefer, just because I like to have the full scripting in there, I like to actually use a scriptable way to access it. And so the emo package is one way to actually do that. We could also do that using the Font Awesome package. There's probably robots in there as well. But the last thing I want to do tonight is I want to check out some of those icons that we have available. So there is the icons package as well. So let's see if we can find that. I got so much stuff open right now. I'm going to go back to my slides, and I'm going to pop to the last one instead of going through them. And again, I have links to all of these packages on the headings here. So the icons package is something that's only available on GitHub. So you're going to want to run this command in your console, and you'll either need the remotes package or does the same operation. And so here, if I in my console, instead of calling it remotes, if I just call it dev tools, either one should work and should access that and install that package. Now I already have that package. It's telling me that it's skipping it because it hasn't changed since the last installation, and we know that there hasn't been any work on that package for 2 years. So once you do that, you should see it available within your package list. So what version is it? Looks like it's version, you can see I have the old one as well, icon, but it looks like it's version 0.2. And so the icons package has some kind of, in addition to Font Awesome type objects, in addition to these kind of standard objects, we have access to other icon sets. And so you can actually access Font Awesome objects from within the icons package. And in fact, that's what I've done. If we were going, I can't find my slides again. If I were to, oh, there it is. That's what I actually did here. So this YouTube rendering here is from the icons package, but I'm pulling a Font Awesome object from within the icons package. So you can do that. The other thing you can do is you can grab icons from some of these other packages, and some of these have really unique, I don't know, you're not going to find them anywhere else, kind of elements to them. One that I saw was called bio. What is this saying? Um, these are actually giving you images that if you're in a medical field, you might be interested in. I mean, it's literally atomic structure of chemicals and things like that. There are, let me see, there's animals in here as well. Now the animals I think are more like veterinary type images. Let's see if we can do an alpaca. So now it's possible that we could put that in as part of the visual editor. I don't know. So I just copied it from online and pasted it there. Lo and behold, look at that. It actually comes through. So that's something you can do. Now, if we wanted to use the icon in a more traditional sense, what does that look like here? Oh, whoa. So that's kind of blowing my mind. So I did not have an images folder. It looks to me like it created one. The more I play with the visual editor, the less I like it. So if I could go back in time, I guess I can. So maybe I'll take a look at this session and see if there was an images folder in this project directory prior to me just copying and putting in the visual editor. I don't think there was. So I think the way that it did that was it took from my clipboard, it created a folder and then put that image in the folder. That's crazy. That's like, wow. I I never would have suspected that that would do something like that. It's like it has a mind of it. The icon package authors intend for us to actually access it. And so again, you're going to need a local installation, but that local installation can be done in your console. So I'm going to see if I can. Now, I already have the Font Awesome objects installed, so I should be able to access Font Awesome icons, and that's what's demonstrated here on the help page. So let's see if we can do that. That llama, that's crazy what it just did. I don't know. I did not expect that. I've never seen that happen before. All of the what's happening here? Oh. There are the kind of autocomplete things that are done. The things that are done that we're not assenting to complete that. Like it's impressive, but a little scary. So there's the Font Awesome object that I already have access to. What we want to do is we want to access some of those lesser known icons. And so I have so many tabs open, I'm having a hard time finding where I need to go. So there should be a statement here of how we access those icon sets themselves. And might need to, well, this isn't on CRAN, so we have kind of a different statement of how these things are accessed. I swear I had a link somewhere to the I can't find. We don't want that now. There are, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a download command. So I think the download command is how we need to access those kind of non-standard type icons. Here's some new icon sets, again, a couple of years ago. Bug fixes. Maybe I'm just not being patient enough here. I mean, I'm trying to kind of skim read. I know I've seen this before. Here we go. So I'm sorry, just a little navigation. Um, so in order to access those bio icons, I'm going to need to first download them, and we'll try it without downloading. Let me look for a more complex image here. Animals are they're not cute, um, but there are really kind of intricate, detailed images that we have. Nucleic acids, maybe those. Uh, I don't know where I was when I saw some just kind of really neat looking things. Here we go. I guess yeah, these are definitely different. AI head. All right, so let's try AI head and see if we can get AI head in there. So I'm going to try the same, and we're expecting this not to work. Whoa, it did not. My pasting did not do what I wanted it to do. Uh, we were expecting it not to work, but we're expecting it not work like that. So bio icons AI dash head is what we're looking for. And again, the expectation is that's not going to render it. When it does render, it should come up underneath our rocket. It's throwing me an error. So it's saying it can't open the connection. So it's trying to find something. Let's see if we can download those. I don't have them installed on my machine, but we'll go ahead and see if we can use the download bio icons function. So we'll go icons download bio icons. Let's try that and give it a little time. And then my expectation is we should now have access to that full icon set, including AI head. Or as we saw, we could just copy it and paste it in the visual editor, but then it gives us a brand new folder, which is a little scary, and creates a new file for us, which is whatever's on our clipboard. That just blows my mind. I mean, it's kind of impressive, but it definitely wasn't expected. The internet is actually pretty fast. Oops, sorry, I just disappeared there, I saw. Right when I said my internet's actually pretty fast. I'm gonna give it a second here because I think we should collectively see. It says it timed out. All right, so I couldn't access it. That might be, again, a little glitch with my internet. Let me show you a workaround for that. I guess we should be able to, if we really like that, just copy it again. And I'm copying the image, not the image address. And then you would need to go into the visual editor. I'm going to go ahead and paste. I did it twice because it didn't look like anything happened, but we'll see. Yeah, nothing actually came up. So it didn't like that one. Man, what a trip that is. It just kind of blows my mind. Okay, now it says we copied it to the clipboard. Maybe it just wasn't copied. There it is. So again, I don't like that workaround because it's coming in as an image, not as an icon, and we're more interested in it as an icon, but my connection timed out, so I'm not going to be able to download those, I don't think, on this actual session. So I think what I'll do is next week, on next week's recap, I'll see if offline I can download that icon set and then show you what these images look like when they're rendered as icons, not as images. I was not expecting us to be able to access them just as images. So that's something learned for me. Okay, So I think that's it. So if anyone has any questions, ideas, or capabilities, the letter R's authoring capabilities, drop me a note. You can leave a comment and I get notification on those comments, or my email is available on the channel. You can drop me an email as well. Okay, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Good night.